markets, rules, norms, and conventions that facilitate and regulate the flow of funds to the savings deficit units in the economy. In our previous lectures, we looked at financial intermediaries, we looked at financial institutions, we looked at financial markets, we looked at rules, norms, and conventions. These were covered in the first model, the definitions. That is, if you go to the relationship between finance and other courses that have been offered in the university, you know what the rules are, you know what the norms are, you know what the conventions are. All these together regulate the flow of funds from the savings surplus unit to the savings deficit unit in an economy. We've also learned what it means by being savings deficit and also savings surplus. You know what is savings deficit and savings surplus units. So fund has to be moved from those that are savings surplus to those that are savings deficit in order to facilitate productive investment within the system. So what we now do is to look at the financial intermediaries, the financial institutions, the financial markets, and how they regulate the flow of funds within the economy. Now, in this study session, that is study session 1, we will learn the basic definitions and components of the system, the basic definitions and components of the systems, and the classifications of financial markets, their functions, and the rest of them. So, a financial system consists of financial intermediaries, financial markets, financial institutions, rules, norms, and conventions that facilitate and regulate the flow of funds within the macroeconomy. And in Nigeria, this system is managed by the central bank because the central bank carries out the federal government's agency function. The central bank carries out the federal government agency function because they're in charge of monetary and fiscal policies. They execute the government fiscal and monetary policies. All economic activities that go on in the economy revolve around the financial system because without finance, nothing can move. As we learned previously, that finance is regarded. So you can look at the functions of the financial system. The financial system creates and supply money, which you know is the medium of exchange. They transfer money from one unit to the other, from the surplus unit to the deficit units. The financial systems aids in accumulation of funds, that is savings. In other words, the financial system is savings mobilization. They also help in creating credit through lending and also facilitates investment. They facilitate investment. And it's also within the financial system that you transfer shares. You transfer shares. along with other market in other facilitating functions. All these are carried out within the financial system. Then financial markets. Financial markets by definition are the various facilities provided by the financial system for the creation, custodianship, and distribution of financial assets and liabilities. Financial markets are the various facilities provided by the financial system for the creation, custodianship, and distribution of financial assets and liabilities. Classification of financial markets. How do you classify financial markets? How do you classify financial markets? There are various criteria that are being used to classify financial markets. There are various criteria that are being used to classify financial markets. The first one is the type of securities that are traded. The type of securities that are traded. The second one is the age of the securities. The age of the securities. The third one is the trading procedure. We shall explain them briefly. The trading procedure, charities. The fifth one, the location of the market. And the sixth one, by the nature of claim. In terms of the nature of claim, we have debt and equity. Debt and equity. What is debt? Evidence of creditorship. Equity. Evidence of ownership. Therefore, when you lend or borrow, the return there is interest. That's the nature of claim. Equity has right to dividend. The nature of claim, equity is dividend, debt is interest. In terms of maturities, you have money and capital market. Money market is for short-term fund, capital market for long-term fund. In terms of maturities, money or capital market. If you talk about the age of claim, the age, the seasoning, you have primary or secondary market. Primary market or secondary market. Primary market for new issues. Primary market for new issues and secondary market for outstanding securities. By type of delivery, is either cash or spot or future. Derivatives, cash or spot market or future. So we have gone through the definitions of primary market. This is a market in which newly issued securities are traded for the first time. That is the primary market. It's otherwise called the new issue market. That is where you sell securities to initial buyers. Then the secondary market, market for outstanding securities. Market for outstanding securities. And that's mainly in the stock exchange where you trade outstanding securities. Capital market is a market for long-term funds, generally those that last more than 1 year. Within the capital market, there are breakdowns, market for negotiated capital funds, whereby you borrow from a bank on long-term basis, or You go for long-term security market. Long-term security market. Within there, it's also have divisions, informal market for capital funds and market for institutionalized capital funds. These are minor definitions and derivations that you may like to know. So to that extent, you have the bond market, the stock market, and the case may be. Then the other one is over-counter market, and you have the organized capital market. You also have foreign exchange market. Futures markets, that is for options and forward. Future contracts, forward contracts, then options contracts. Then functions of the financial system, functions of the financial market. Functions of the financial market, they help in fixing the prices of financial instruments. In that market, you have buyers and you have sellers. The negotiation therein helps to determine the prices of financial instruments, like it happens in the stock exchange, like it happens in the primary market. The financial markets also offer liquidity to investors. In other words, when you buy long-term for securities that you know you can hold for a long time, there might be a situation where you like to liquidate in order to make use of funds. If you don't have that such market, there is nowhere you can liquidate the securities. There's no way you can convert them into cash in order to continue your activities. So the third one, they reduce the cost of intermediation. In other words, instead of intermediaries or to investors that are savings deficit. That is the way they reduce the cost of intermediation while playing the intermediary function. They also promote economic efficiency by so doing through lending and for mobilization and allocation. They promote economic efficiency within the system. Yes, by so doing, they help to raise the standard of living of the populace. They help to raise the standard of living of the populace. So we always talk about financial assets. What are financial assets? Asset is what someone owns that's value. What someone owns that gives benefits. We have fixed income securities and have variable income securities. Fixed income in terms of interest, variable incomes in terms of dividends. Why do government regulate financial markets? Why do government regulate financial markets? From what you learned, the financial market promotes economic efficiency and it raises the standard of living. Then what is the basic objective of the government? Efficiency, efficiency promotion, and raising standard of living. So for that, one can easily answer the question why government regulate financial markets. One is to avoid fraudulent practices. Avoiding fraudulent practices, which you know does not promote economic efficiency. Secondly, to promote fair trading and guarantee competition in the market, to stabilize the financial institutions. That's another one. And fourthly, to control the level of economic activities within the system. And the government trying to promote or control the level of economic activities in the system is through monetary and fiscal policies. There is no way government can execute monetary and fiscal policies within the system without passing through the financial markets. Yes, government cannot do that. In other words, one of the basic functions of the financial markets is to aid in the execution of monetary and fiscal policies. All right. Financial intermediaries. Functions of financial intermediaries. Functions of financial intermediaries. One is to reduce hoarding in the system, hoarding of money. They promote savings and investment. They facilitate investment in plants and equipment, provide liquidity within the system, stabilize the financial markets, they reduce transaction costs, and they encourage diversification. This is just a summary of what we have learned, what I've been saying, just a summary. A summary. Functions of the financial intermediaries. A summary. Please, I would like you to go through your reading materials. You have to look at the types of financial intermediaries. Some are depository and some are contractor. And you have investment intermediaries. Okay. Depository institutions are banks. Okay. Deposit money banks. Contractor institutions are mutual associations, pension funds, and insurance companies. These are contractor savings institutions. And finally, investment intermediaries, meaning investment companies. One may like to ask, no, the types of financial intermediaries, just look at them. The depository, the contractor, and the investment intermediaries. They promote these roles, they play these roles within the system. They play these roles. There are quite a lot of other roles that play within the system. So it's good that you acquaint yourself with those roles. We now move further to look at Nigerian money market. We said we have money and capital market. Money market, by definition, market for short-term fund. Generally those which will last for not more than 1 year. Okay, more than 1 year. Such as, and they have all their other securities, treasury bills, and the rest of them. When you go through the definition in your reading materials, you acquaint yourself with them. They are there. Who and who participates in the money market? Money market participants. Okay. The participants include the buyers and suppliers of funds, those that are saving surplus and those that are saving deficit. These are the participants, as well as their intermediaries. So three, you either saving surplus or saving deficit, and then the intermediaries. So among the participants are the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria that buys and sells treasury bills, and the rest of them, the local government, the institutions, and the investment companies. You may not like to waste your time on the purpose of the money market. Purpose of the money market. Without the money market, you cannot borrow short, you cannot lend short. In other words, short-term financial transactions activities may be forestalled. One thing I want you to understand now is the characteristics of the money market. Characteristics of money market securities. These are usually very important because if you don't know them, you will not answer most of the objective questions. They appear as subjective questions. Characteristics of money market. One of the following, for instance, is not a characteristic of money market security. If you don't know the characteristics, you may not be able to answer the question. For instance, they are usually sold in large denominations. They are usually sold in that denominations. They are sold in round figures. In round figures. Okay. 2, they have low default risk. They have low default risk. In other words, the issuers are of high credit standing. They have the ability to fulfill their obligation of repayment, interest and principal, as and when due. Obligation of repayment, interest and principal, as and when due. That is, they have low default risk. Then the third one, they mature within 1 year. That is why the money market, they cannot exceed one accounting year, okay, for maturity. Then D, they are highly marketable. In other words, they could be sold with ease without much loss in value. They could be sold with ease without much loss in value. That is it. So this particular point always appear in the objective questions. One of the following is not a characteristic of money market securities. If you don't know them, you will not be able to get the question. Okay. Basically, therefore, they can find one of the textbooks as you read. One, they're usually sold in large denominations in that what we call round lots, round lots, round lots, sold in large denominations. Then they have low default risk. In other words, the issuers have the ability, financial standing to do what? Pay back interest and principals. Or if you are borrowing, you go through that line. Okay? Anybody that issues money market securities has the ability to withdraw, to retire. These are various ways we can find. As and when due, interest and principals. Then they're highly marketable, and they must not last more than 1 year. We'll now look at the money market instruments that are being talked about. We have the commercial papers, we have the treasury papers. The commercial papers and the treasury papers. Whenever you hear treasury, we're talking about the government. When you talk about commercial papers, we're talking about instruments that are issued by non-governmental bodies. Instruments that are issued by non-governmental bodies, commercial papers, and they include bills of exchange, promissory notes, and the rest of them. Bills of exchange, promissory notes. Then when we talk about treasury papers, what will come to your mind first of all is the treasury bills, the treasury certificates. The word treasury represents government. Okay? So as you read now, you now know the advantages of using one and the disadvantages. For instance, treasury bills for the government, okay? So it provides the government with a flexible source of revenue. It is relatively cheap and provides sound security. Any government that issues treasury bills knows that at the appropriate time, it can print more cash at worst to retire interest and principal, whatever it has sold to the public. And it has the Central Bank of Nigeria to operate monetary policy. So you have the treasury certificates, you have the treasury bills, and the rest of them. You have other money market securities, certificate of deposit as pertains to the bank. They call money. If you're in the banking system, you understand all these things. But as you read them, they're very, very easy. You have commercial papers, that is commercial papers and short-term instruments, but they're very unsecured, that are issued by companies of high net worth, and are usually sold. Then you know them, the repurchase agreements and so on and so forth. These are types of money market securities. These are types of money market securities. The ones issued by government and the ones issued by companies of high net worth. We go further now to look at the functions of the money market. Basically, to provide liquidity. Basically, to provide liquidity at short notice. It helps to stabilize interest rates. And of course, it's a market where you can invest. You can invest by fixing your excess cash and making returns on short-term basis. Okay, that's the functions of the money market. We can briefly go through it. Number one, it provides enabling environment to operate effective monetary policy by the central bank. Yes, through the use of sell and buying of treasury bills, or what we call treasury papers. It smoothens short-term deposit mobilization and allocation within the system. Banks can easily mobilize funds and they can also allocate through lending. It supplies the necessary instruments that are used in expanding and contracting credit. Yes. Then helps to maintain liquidity of the banking system at the desired level. It helps firms to diversify their asset holdings. It provides the machinery needed for government short-term financial requirements through borrowings, and they know their borrowings either in cash or using treasury papers. It provides profitable investments, opportunity for short-term surplus funds, thereby helping to enhance the profit of financial institutions. So also it helps in quick transfer of funds from one person to the other, from one place to the other through the nowadays it's even very easy through online services. Very easy through online services. Now we move to section 3. Section 3 is the Nigerian capital market. Nigerian capital market. Market for long-term fund. Market for long-term fund. By just touching them, you have the time to read and go deeper. So in capital market, like I told you, have two types: market for negotiating long, capital funds, negotiation, and the other one is long-term security market. Negotiation, you can enter into the bank, conventional financial institutions, and ask for long-term fund, long-term borrowing, something that you know will last more than one accounting year, can pass through. Number one, you go and negotiate for it. This is the amount we need, and you negotiate the interest and whatever, and how you are going to liquidate them. The other one is also long-term security market. That is a securitized market. Securitized market. Take note that the market for negotiated capital funds covers those transactions that are not evidenced by negotiable instruments. Or by those activities that are not evidenced by negotiable instruments, such as long-term loans from banks. The word negotiated shows that the amount borrowed or lent was negotiated, and the interest rate also was negotiated. Everything concerning the loan contract was done on negotiation basis. Then the other one is long-term security market, where you evidence the transaction using securities. Long-term security. This market is divided into two, mainly primary and secondary. Long-term security is divided into two. Long-term and long-term security market is divided into two, primary and secondary. If you don't call it primary, you call it new issue market, secondary market, or the stock exchange. Part of the explanation of this has been given to you before in the previous unit. So look at the security market. The stock exchange guarantees a continuous market. That is where you go and liquidate whatever share you have bought which you don't want to continue. You need fund, you go and liquidate it in the security market, the stock exchange. It's a continuous market. Okay? They facilitate and encourage investors with short-term investment horizon to participate in the primary market. In other words, if there is no market where investors with short-term investment horizon could liquidate, mark the word, liquidate all the time, liquidate their holdings, then primary market will be very difficult. It will not exist. So investors must have hope. They must be sure that whenever they need fund, they can go and liquidate whatever stock they're holding. So, in other words, the existence of the secondary market, that is stock exchange, facilitates transactions in the primary market. That is what we want to say. Because investors that do not want to hold the securities for a long time know that there is a secondary market where they can go and resell their shares whenever they feel like. However, the new issue market always exists in as much as there are users of capital funds who issue negotiable instruments to attract such funds. Thus, a new issue market can exist without a stock exchange. But then, the confidence is not there. Can it work? The reverse is not the case. So who are those that participate in the new issue market? The new issue market have three major participants. The mediators, on whom we call facilitators, and these are the issuing houses, the stockbroking firms, the commercial banks, the merchant banks, the insurance companies, the registrars, and so on and so forth. These are the facilitators because they perform the function of facilitating the activities in the new issue market. The second group are the investors. These investors are saving surplus. They are the lenders of capital funds. Okay? They are purchasers of securities, individuals and the institutions. The other ones are the issuers of securities. The issuers of securities. They are savings deficit. They are borrowers. They can come in form of firms, governments, and the other agencies. So, for the firm that is not previously listed on the stock exchange, primary market operations means that the firm is going public. The firm is going public via the stock exchange. In other words, if you are not previously listed on the exchange, you go public. You go public. Go public and get your funds through the stock exchange. Then, advantage of a security market. Advantage of a security market. One is the provision of capital for long-term investment purposes. They also provide investment outlets. They offer access to a variety of financial instruments to be bought and sold. They also facilitate trade and production. That's the major activity, facilitating trade and production within the economy. They provide facilities for trade and production within the economy. Which are types of securities that are sold? Mainly debt and equity. Debt and equity. Debt and equity. Debt and equity. You have the federal government development loan stocks. You have equities of ordinary shares and the rest of them. These are examples that could be found. There are many types of them. You'll be expected to know how to issue equity. The types of securities are equity and debt. Then, how to issue equity. How to issue equity. You'll be expected to know that. You'll be expected to know the institutions that are involved. The institutions that are involved, you must know them. The issuers, the issuing house, the facilitators. The issuers, the issuing house, or the issuing houses, and the facilitators. Basically, you may have private issues, public issues, private issues. Public issues and private issues. In other words, you may like to issue equity publicly or privately. If you want to issue privately, You go through what is called private placement and also rights offering. Private placement and rights offering. One of the following is not a method of issuing equity privately. They give you the ones that are used, put that the ones that are not used. The following. All I'm trying to tell is that one can ask you those questions in form of objective or multiple choice. But major things you have to note is that we have private placement and the other one is rights offering. Offering the shares to those that are already owning some of the shares in the company. In terms of public issues, you have issue by prospectus. Prospectus is a document that you prepare, you use to market the new equity, you use to call on the general public to come and subscribe. You also have another tab, offer for sale. Offer for sale. You must have been hearing or seen them or have experience of them being conducted within the system. You have another one, stock exchange placing and stock exchange introduction. There are many variations of this that are being used. So there are factors to be considered before making a choice of selling method. In other words, whichever method you want to use, there are factors that must be taken into consideration. They must be taken into consideration. The first one is total value of an issue. The total value of an issue. Two, the circumstances of the issuer. C, the cost of each issue. D, method and legal consideration. In other words, if you are choosing to issue the share via prospectus, you have to consider the cost of each issue. You have to consider the total value you need, the circumstances of the issuer, and the method and legal consideration. If you choose offer for sale and whatever method, if you choose a private issue, private placement, you have to look at these factors. If you choose private rights offering, you have to take care of these issues because they determine the overall cost of issuing. If the flotation cost is going to be high within the period and the circumstances within the economy as at then, you may choose a private placement or you may choose a rights issue. Private placing refers to the purchases of an issue of debenture or shares by a finance company. A company may through a stockbroker arrange for one or more investment trust companies or life insurance offices to buy and block the shares or the debenture of the company, even though they are not listed on the exchange. We're talking about private placing. Private placing is not going to the stock, it's not private placing. Whichever method you now use, you have to market the securities. You have to market them. You have to market them. In other words, you have to sell. You have to obtain funds for further investment. So the first one method you can use is issued by prospectus. This involves the invitation of the general public to subscribe for shares. And this is usually the case with large issues that must be sold within a short period. Large issues use a issue by prospectus. All right. Prospectus, do change over. Then the next one is the offer for sale. That's right. Offer for sale. The next one is issue by tender. One may like you to distinguish between issue by prospectus, offer for sale, and issue by tender. One might like you to distinguish between offer for sale, issue by prospectus, and issue by tender. Issue by prospectus is a method that involves the invitation of general public to subscribe for shares. This is usually the case with large issues that must be sold within a short period. It requires adequate advertisement. It requires adequate advertisement and reduction in price. I'm taking my time because it's important. Issue by prospectus involves invitation to general public to subscribe for shares. In other words, you print prospectus. Can share through the banks or other intermediaries and make them available to the general public through advertisement, telling them that so and so shares are up for sale. Those who want to become shareholders can apply and get them. Then offer for sale. In offer for sale, the securities are offered to the public, not on behalf of the company itself, but of one or more holders to whom they have already been issued. I go through it again. The securities are offered to the public, not on behalf of the company issuer, but of one or more holders to whom the shares have already been sold. In other words, the major difference is who collects the money. Under normal circumstances, the holder is the issuing house itself, which has bought the issue from the company and is now offering it to the general public at a significantly higher price to cover the expenses of the issue plus its own profit. I need to pause a little bit. An issuer will contact an issuing company. The issuing company facilitates the sale. Depending on the economic circumstances and the circumstances of the firm, the issuer may like to buy the entire issue en bloc, buy them en bloc, that's pay for the entire issue, forward the money to the issuing company. After a time, maybe according to law, the issuing company would like to offload the shares to the general public. As it offloads the shares to the general public, it has already paid for them, so it retains the money. And the price is going to sell will reflect what will cover the expenses of the issue and profit. For instance, you may make an expense of 5 naira per share, bought the share 14 naira, and need interest of 5 naira. You have to add the expenses, the cost of the share, and then the profit. That is what is meant at a significantly higher price. The price may be determined by the economic circumstances at that time, and also the circumstances of the issuing house. Then the third one, issued by tender, is a variant of offer for sale. is a variant of offer for sale. In this case, the shares are issued at the minimum price at which the share is underwritten, and tenders are invited for the shares at or above this price. The shares have already been bought, but then when it's being offloaded through tender, the minimum price will be fixed. Then investors or tenders are invited to tender for at that price or above that particular price. As soon as the shares have been bought and sold, any investor who wants to offload will now go to the secondary market. Any investor that wants to offload will now go to the secondary market. And the secondary market is represented by the stock exchange. So let's look at the functions of the stock exchange. One, to provide the enabling environment for mobilizing private and public savings and making them available for productive investments through stock and shares. It provides liquidity in the system by establishing a meeting point for dealing members to buy and sell existing stock and shares, as well as opportunity for raising new capital. They create and facilitate the purchase and sale of securities, and so on and so forth. If you want to participate in the activities of the stock exchange, you may appear as either a broker, brokerage firms. You can appear as a market maker, dealers. You can appear as investment managers, a clearinghouse, security depositories, at once a speculator. As stock brokers, you have distribution and stock brokers have to distribute. There are licensed dealers on the exchange who can buy or sell securities on behalf of investors. In performing this function, stockbrokers may be assisted by other parties, such as commercial banks, acting as their agents. If you must be a broker, then we use certain qualities to choose one. Qualities of a good broker. A good broker must have the ability to maintain effective presence on the exchange, and they have the ability to execute orders truthfully and efficiently. He must have ability, and such ability relates to executing orders to buy and sell, must have competence, truthfulness, and efficiency. A broker may do only one buying or selling, and may also perform extra services like provision of information about the market. Have brokers that buy, have brokers that sell, have a combination of buying and selling. So you can choose a broker by looking at the service range. You can choose a broker based on integrity. And what is my bond? Is the broker the type that will take undue advantage of the other? Is the broker that the type that can cross orders? You can look at the cost consideration. Is the broker very expensive? Is it relatively okay? What of his fees? And finally, you can look at the financial condition or financial position of a broker. If a broker is that of a high net worth, the broker of that of the type that has experience, and the rest of them. These are considerations must be put in place for one to choose a broker. Has he a research base? Has he adequate marketing departments? Will the services serve the need of the client? These are issues that must be put in place. We have the share registrars. These are participants, which you can go through. I would like you to browse through the listing requirements on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the first tier and the second tier. The first tier and the second tier. There was a time everybody was on the second tier, and their functions. If you are listed on the stock exchange, what advantages do you derive? What advantages do you derive by being listed on the exchange? It offers you prestige. Your company is listed on the exchange. You go to the stock exchange official list, you find the name, so and so and company list limited. It gives prestige. It helps to spread ownership. In other words, you have minimum number, but you don't have maximum. Can transfer it to any person at any time. Individual investors, governments, and other institutional bodies, they can own part of the shares. These are public limited companies. You can use the advantages of listing or being quoted to value a firm. This firm is listed, this one is not listed. The one that is listed normally has high value. It's a basis for valuation. And if you are listed, you have a lot of flexibility in raising funds because lots of lenders will be interested in you. Lots of lenders will be interested in you. And also, they are sure the firm that is quoted can survive longer than firms that are not quoted. So these are few advantages one can go through and be able to remember. It carries prestige, it spreads ownership, it's a basis for valuation, it offers flexibility and continuity. It can appear as a multiple choice question or theory question. I would like you to go through the Securities and Exchange Commission, look at the formation and primary function. Let's rush the primary functions. They determine the price of the shares to be issued, the time and quantity, the price, the time, and the quantity. The price is to avoid a situation where the shares overpriced or underpriced. The time, because of the time they are going to offload it in the market, they look at the economic conditions so that the issue may succeed. The quantity determines the price. If you oversupply, price will be depressed. So the primary function of the stock exchange is to determine the price, the time, and the quantity at which company securities are to be issued. They also maintain the register of all securities proposed to be offered privately. They also register all security dealers, investment advisors, the registrars and marketplaces. It is the job of the Securities and Exchange Commission to register all the dealers, that is stockbrokers, register the investors, the investment advisors that are there, and the registrars. They also maintain proper standard of conduct and professionalism in the securities business. They maintain overall surveillance of the market in order to ensure orderliness, fair and equitable dealings. In other words, the Securities and Exchange Commission stands as the watchdog. They take steps to forestall illegal and unethical dealings, such as insider dealings. They determine the basis for allocation of securities offered to the market in order to ensure spread and equity. In other words, in the primary market, they also have function. They determine the basis for allotment of securities and also they ensure and let us go through again. Determine the price, the time and quantity at which securities of companies are to be issued. And I've told you why they have to determine the price, the time and quantity. They maintain the register of all proposed securities. They register all security dealers. They maintain proper standard of conduct and professionalism in the business. They maintain overall surveillance of the market in order to ensure orderliness, fair and equitable dealings. They also try to forestall illegal and unethical dealings, ethical conduct such as insider dealings. And 7, determine the basis for allotment of securities offered in the market. That is the functions of the Securities and Exchange Commission. A major arm of the financial market is the banking system. The major arm of the market is the banking system. So, we want to attempt the definition of bank and banking system. Bank and the system of banking. Banking is defined as the business activity of a bank. That is, any activities carried out by a bank for business purpose. That is banking. It could be accepting deposits, that is deposit mobilization, could be lending, could be leasing, and so on and so forth. Banking. Then what is a bank? It's a financial institution or financial intermediary that are registered under the relevant law in a country that primarily collects deposits from the 7 surplus units and lends to the 7 deposit units, apart from other functions. The bank must be registered under the relevant law in the system to carry out deposit mobilization and deposit allocation, as well as other functions. And whichever activities it carries on, the style it uses, under which norms and customs, refers to the system we're talking about, banking system. A banking system is also defined as a group or network of institutions, instruments, procedures, and laws that provide financial services to the customers. The network comprises commercial banks, investment firms, savings and merchant banks, which mobilize deposits and savings from the general public and lend to investors. So you have lots and lots of firms under the banking system in Nigeria. We would not like to waste more time on the functions of the commercial or the banking system, especially deposit money banks. They have primary functions and secondary functions. Primary functions and secondary functions. The primary function includes deposit mobilization and deposit allocation. Banks accept deposit into savings, could be fixed deposit, could be current deposit. Interest on loans constitute the bank's greatest source of income. Fund allocation could be in the form of loans, cash credits, overdrafts, discounting of bills, etc. The secondary functions of the bank are mainly agency functions, agency and general utility functions. Among the agency functions include services like fund transfer, that's agency function, check collections, portfolio management. These are what the banks do or carry out on behalf of their clients or customers. The banking system of any country defines its range of activities. Types of banking system. We will not waste much time on that. We have private banking, home banking, wholesale banking, mixed banking, as the case may be. We also have branch banking, unit banking. The Central Bank of Nigeria, I would like you to go through the Central Bank of Nigeria, look at the formation, time it began, and the activities that were associated with it. The functions of central bank, the government banks, the bankers bank, lenders of last resort, reservoir of foreign currency, the clearinghouse, that take the function of credit control. You also look at the functions of the commercial banks, accepting deposits, they give loans, payment and collection functions, agency and utility services. You may like to look a little bit at the various agency functions of the commercial banks, the agency functions of the commercial banks. One, to collect and clear checks, these are agency functions, dividends, and interest warrants. To make payments of rents, make payments of rents, insurance premiums, as the case may be. To deal in foreign exchange transactions on behalf of customers, They purchase and sell securities. These are not traditional banking functions. To act as trustee, attorney, correspondent, and executors. To accept tax proceeds and tax returns. Banks nowadays make a lot of money through these agency roles. So apart from the traditional deposit mobilization and allocation, they carry out other agency functions. They facilitate other roles, as we have gone through. These are what is being noticed on a daily basis. People go to bank to pay NEPA bills. People go to bank to buy WAEC or NICO forms. A lot of things are happening. The bank uses them to make money. The general utility functions of commercial banks include to provide safety locker for customers. They provide money transfer facilities. They issue travelers checks. They act as referees. They accept various bills of payment, phone bills, gas bills, water bills, etc. They provide merchant banking facilities. They provide various credit cards, credit or debit cards, smart cards, and so on and so forth. These are utility functions. These are utility functions. So we've gone through utility functions and the agency functions and the major primary banking functions. They operate through various channels. They operate through various channels. You have automated teller machine, the conventional ATM. You have branch banking, branch network. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
All right. So we've just gone through the channels. There are many channels that are being used nowadays. So mobile banking, video banking, telebanking, and whatever. Commercial banks face a lot of risks. I would just like you to note these risks, not to go into details. This is just fundamental basis. They have credit risk, liquidity risk, market risk, and operational risk, and reputational risks. Apart from others, credit risk is the risk of loss arising from a borrower who does not make payments as promised. Credit risk, you lend money, interest and principal at risk because of the inability to service it. credit risk. Next one is liquidity risk. Liquidity risk is a risk that a given security or asset cannot be traded quickly in order to do what? Prevent a loss in value or make the required profit. You want to liquidate an asset, something like a share or shares. If the shares are not marketable per se, the probability of the seller realizing interest and principal as are required may not be there. So whenever you buy, whatever you buy in form of security faces a liquidity risk. Banks also face such risks. The next one is market risks. What I'm teaching is important because you may use it as an objective question. One of the following is not a risk associated with commercial banking. Then if you don't know the risk, then you get into trouble. I mentioned credit risk, liquidity risk. The next one is market risk. The next one is market risk. Market risk is the risk that the value of a portfolio of assets, either an investment portfolio or a trading portfolio, will decrease due to the change in value of the market risk factors. Market risk factors include inflation and the rest of exchange rate and the rest of them. These are market risk factors. Operational risks arise from execution of a company's business function. Somebody who is supposed to be in a position to execute the business in a required way, in a prescribed way, leaves that particular method and follows another, which leads to loss or losses. Operational risks, the risk arising from operations, improper operations. Reputational risk, a type of risk related to the trustworthiness. These are reputational risks. Somebody who says is A may turn out to be B. In other words, it leads to losses. Reputational risk. The bank may also suffer reputational risks due to its own operations. I would not like you to waste much time on functions of merchant banks or merchant banking. Merchant banking, no, these are wholesale banks. They accept deposits, give loans and advances, go into equipment leasing and the rest of them. They are mainly equipment leasing. I would not like you to waste time on merchant banking activities, but to just browse through and know some of their functions and the major difference between a commercial bank and a merchant bank. One is a wholesale bank, the other one is a retail bank. Retail banking. The other one is a commercial and retail bankers. Then the retail end of the market. Okay. Now, I want us to go into methods of payments, modes of payments in the Nigerian banking system. Modes of payment in the Nigerian banking system. Payment can be made in many different ways when a transaction is made. Depending on the type of business, the place and the amount involved. Payment can be made by giving cash payment. Could be made through telephone transfer, mail transfer, money order, postal order, bill of exchange, promissory note, check, bank draft, as the case may be. Payment could be made by cash, and it's suitable only for small sums of money. Cash payment is suitable for small sums. When the amount involved is large, it becomes uncomfortable. You may not be able to carry cash due to the risks involved. It can be made through telegraphic transfer. Here, the payer deposits the money along with the other charges in the bank. If the money is 10,000 and the charges are 5,000, you deposit 15,000 in the bank. So, the payer can go to that place and collect the money. The bank will receive all the cash and other charges telegraphically informs the branch or the branch office to credit the amount. That is in those days when we don't have online banking. Nowadays, deposit in location A can go to location B and collect your money. You have money transfer, postal order, money order, postal order, you have bill of exchange as a method of payment. Advantage of a bill of exchange. The holder of the bill can receive the money even before the due date by discounting it. Or the bill can be transferred to another person and makes the buyer to purchase the goods without actual payment. You accept the bill and makes payment at a later date. In other words, it is used for deferred payment, a form of promise to pay. Could be a promissory note like that. It's akin to bill of exchange. Make payments by check. Most businessmen nowadays have a demand deposit account to facilitate their business transactions. When a bank account is opened, the bank uses checkbook for making payments. Check payment is very convenient, it's very safe. To ensure safety of the check, it may be crossed. Not avoid making payment to a wrong person. You have bank draft. A bank draft is defined as an order to pay money drawn by one office of a bank upon another office of the same bank for a sum of money payable to order or demand. It is called a bank checks. Students use this method mostly to pay school fees. We move to credit facilities that are available from a bank. Credit facilities that are available from a bank. We would like to read deeper in case you're interested in getting credit from a bank. How do you classify them? You can classify them in terms of tenor, note the time. You can classify them in terms of cash disbursement, and you can classify them in terms of purpose. In terms of tenor, the tenor of credit facility is defined as the contractual time period within such a borrower is expected to repay. In other words, the tenor may be short term, maybe medium term, it may be long term. If it is short term, it may not exceed 1 year. medium term 1 to 3 years, and above long term. In other words, one can talk about short-term credit, medium-term credit, or long-term bank loan. If you look at it in terms of cash, then you talk about overdraft. Overdraft. What is an overdraft? An overdraft facility involves the granting of permission to a customer to draw money in excess of the balance in his account up to a certain limit. In other words, you have to be a bank customer. You have to be a bank customer. And when you are in need of fund, you can approach the banker and allow you to overdraw the amount you have outstanding up to a certain limit. You'll be allowed to draw in excess of what you have outstanding in your account. But then, it has an upper limit. Be aware that overdraft is expected to be repaid within 1 year, although it can be renewed, subject to satisfactory review or utilization. Is by far the cheapest type of borrowing. Overdraft is the cheapest type of borrowing. One would like you to distinguish between an overdraft and an outright loan. One might like you to distinguish between an overdraft and outright loan. The major point is in terms of repayment, is in terms of interest. An outright loan, you pay interest on the amount allowed, amount advanced. But for overdraft, you pay interest only on the amount overdrawn. You may not draw up to the limit. You're expected to pay interest only on the amount overdrawn. You have term loans. You have term loans. You have personal loan. You have bridging loan. You have leasing. I'm mentioning them because of time. You have bill discounted. You have commercial paper, commercial deposits. You have guarantees and acceptance. You have indemnities, etc. Indemnities. When you accept to indemnify. Let's briefly look at types of checks. Check is a negotiable instrument used to make payment on a day-to-day basis. It's a type of bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker. You have open check or bearer check. And this type of check is payable to a person specified in the instrument or any person who possesses it and presents it for payment is open check. You have order check. An order check is payable to a specified person named in the check or any other to whom it is endorsed. Note the word or the term endorsed. Endorsed. In other words, the instrument must be endorsed by the owner before another person gets a good title. If you have a bearer check and the word bearer that is written on the check is crossed or cancelled, it becomes an order check. So you have cross check. This is the safest type of check. This is the safest type of check, and it is done by writing account payee on two parallel lines drawn on top or left or any side of the check. This type of check cannot be presented and cashed over the counter. It can only be credited to payee's account. Please note it, it's very important. You have postdated checks, antedated checks, stale checks, mutilated checks, and so on and so forth. So, features of a valid check. Features of a valid bank check. A valid check must be in writing. That's one. Two, it contains an unconditional order. The drawer must be a customer of the bank. The account holders only. Checks must be signed by the customer. Check must be payable on demand. And checks must be mentioned exact amount in it. The payee must be certain. And checks must be duly dated. If you date it wrongly, that is a problem. You don't date wrongly. The payee must be certain. In other words, the name of the payee must be written on the check, or it can be made payable to bearer. Checks must be mentioned the exact amount to be paid, and that exact amount must tally both in words and in figures. Please, I'd like you to go through check crossing. Know the implication of check crossing. Because of time, we will not go too far. Parties to a check. Please, this is very important. Parties to a check. You have the drawer, you have the drawee and payee. Please, have the drawer, the drawee and payee. You don't have the payer here. You don't have the payer here. There are three parties to a check. The drawer. This is the person who writes and signs the check, and usually is a current account holder. The drawee is the bank, not a person. The drawee is the bank on which the check is drawn. Then the beneficiary is the payee. Checks, three persons, three parties. The drawer, the drawee, the payee, not the payer. Drawer, drawee, payee. All right. If the person who is supposed to receive the benefit of a check has no account in any bank or does not want to cash it due to any reason, he can now endorse the check to another person. He can now endorse the check to another person. The endorser. This is one who transfers his rights in the instrument by endorsing the check at the reverse side and authorizing payment to be made to another person. That is the endorser. The endorsee. This is a party to a check to whom the right in the check has been transferred through endorsement. So it's only the endorser that can, transfer the right to endorsee. Characteristics of a check: it must be unconditional order, it must be in writing, must be addressed by one person to the bank, must be signed by the drawer, must contain some certain amount, okay, must be made payable to a specified person, the order to the bearer or wherever, must be duly dated by the customer of the bank. These are very, very important for multiple choice questions, right? Very, very important for multiple choice questions that I'd like you to go through. The advantages of using check. Advantages of using check: one, it is easier and more convenient. It is easily carried about and reduces the risk of theft. If a check is stolen, it could be stopped by the drawer. A cross check offers additional security because it must be paid into an account of the payee. The use of check does not require additional paperwork, just a piece of paper which you can write and then transfer the funds. It reduces fraud associated with carrying cash. It reduces fraud associated with carrying cash. Okay? Disadvantages are the following. A check is not a legal tender. If you give me and I don't like, I cannot collect. Its use is limited to current account holders. All right? If you're a savings account holder, I don't talk about check. You cannot, because you don't own a checkbook. No bank will give you a checkbook if you now open a savings account. Then 3, it involves the creditor with additional expenses. It involves the creditor with additional expenses. And 4, dishonored checks brings about emotional or psychological discomfort when you issue a check and it's dishonored. There's emotional involvement there. Termination of a banker's authority to pay check. A banker may not be allowed to pay check. A banker may not allow to be checked if the value of the check, even in words, is different from that stated. If the check is stale, if the check is post-dated, if the payee's name or beneficiary is not entered on the check, alterations not signed off by the drawer, the check has been mutilated in some ways. If any check has these characteristics or these features, the banker may not like to pay for obvious reasons. If there's uncleared effects, if there's insufficient fund in the account, the check is drawn wrongly or wrongly presented, an endorsement is omitted or incorrect endorsement. When all these things happen, the banker may now reject the check or dishonor it, as the case may be. And today, this is where we would like to call it, end and start another day. I would like you to do the following: read about the ATM, the Nigerian Automatic Clearing System, and see how checks are cleared. See how checks are cleared in the system. Because when you give a check, you expect the payee to collect it. So how is it cleared from bank to bank? How does one bank clear? Otherwise, there's going to be a problem in the system. So I want you to go through these ones next time. And this is where we'll stop for today. Hello? Hello?
Hello, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, sir.